Well, good morning, everybody. Here's the plan for today's forecast video. After we talk about the tropical system, this is TD number 19, Tropical Depression 19, and where it might possibly go, we're going to then walk into the next couple of big weather systems and try to figure out next week how high of an impact this winter storm system is going to be as it comes through the west and then gets into the central United States. Hopefully there is moisture for the northeast. We'll talk a bit more about that too. But we will be talking about snow here in a few moments. Then at the end, I want to show you again what the Climate Prediction Center was predicting for winter. And again, I think it's largely based on La Nina influences. And as you know, in the last several weeks, I've been calling into question the strength of this La Nina. So we're going to do that again at the end of this forecast video. But this is TD19 as viewed by our what we call our mesoscale floater. This is where we're grabbing an image of the tropical convection. So where are you in the world? This is Central America. Mexico is, of course, here. There's Jamaica. Cuba's off the screen. But we're just getting an image every minute of the convection with this tropical system. And if we look right now, the National Hurricane Center is expecting this to stay as tropical storm and move here through parts of Central America and eventually over to the Yucatan. And this is where we start to question where it could go into the Gulf of Mexico. And as I mentioned the last couple of days, there's a lot of evidence of a turn like this, given the position of this trough next week that we have to take a close look at. The latest update on the super blend of models from several different, we have the EPS, this would be the European model, the UK Met Office. We have the GFS, that's a US model, and the CMC. And we see it going right here. This is over the next 3 days. By day 4, we should expect this to be moving toward the Yucatan. And then this is where we're expecting next week, maybe the 19th and 20th. It looks like more like the 19th. We're going to have to watch to see where this comes out here. What would that be? That's Tuesday next week, coming out here into this area and then making that turn. Now, what is not known, I apologize, we just don't have, I can't tell you with confidence what I think the strength of this is going to be. I do know the ocean temperatures here are plenty warm to support this, but it will be likely bringing quite a bit of moisture into pockets of the southeast. It appears right now that will mainly be Florida based off of the model guidance. But just remember that our National Hurricane Center, even out 5 days, is still not yet, I think, pinned in on where this thing is going to go once it gets into into the Gulf of Mexico. And again, the issue is just we're watching a tropical system interact with another deep low that's going to be coming through the midsection of the United States about the same time. Now, in addition to that, we are monitoring some stuff going on over in the Pacific Ocean. And normally this time of year, really it's more of an October feature, but we tend to watch for these tropical systems to make the turn into the North Pacific and kind of affect the jet stream. But that's kind of interesting. The big one we're watching is here. We have 2 out ahead of it, one that's in the northern tip of the Philippines, one going into very southern parts of China. And but it's this one I'm curious about because of some of the model forecasts. A couple of folks were asking me about where I thought this thing was going to go. I'm so sorry, guys. This is the one I'm keeping an eye on first. So what we were curious about is where this was going to go once it got to Taiwan. Because if you notice, some of the forecast models take it this way, some take it that way, and mathematically, there's just like some odd feature going on here that's causing these forecast tracks to split. And but the reality is that I can't really count on this to understand if we're going to have some sort of major tropical influence in the Pacific that's going to influence the jet stream. But very unique model simulations of what happens as this approaches Taiwan from the northern tip of the Philippines. Now, let me go back. I want to show you, this again is Tomer Berg's site. You need to bookmark this one. I love it. arctic.som.ou.edu/tberg, and then get to products. So we can come back into the tropical cyclones, and I want to see this one. This is the other one. Here it is. And the forecast tracks, so that one we just talked about was here, goes up and maybe splits, who knows. The one that follows it seems to go straight toward the Philippines and then makes it here possibly over to this part of Southeast Asia. So again, if I saw either of these two things doing that, we'd have more of a story that could really impact the United States weather going forward and Canada as well. So let's get a quick refresh on the radar here. This is the latest update we've got this morning. This system rolled through and did bring some decent moisture. It's actually doing that right now on the Appalachian Mountains, this side of the Ohio Valley. And we're going to watch as this struggles to bring moisture much further into Pennsylvania, New York, and then the rest of the Northeast, which we know has been so dry. This system will likely curl up, though, very soon over parts of North Carolina. I'll show you that in a few moments. On the backside, we have another low that's come out here. It's now into parts of southern Saskatchewan, but it does not have the ability to tap into Gulf moisture, which is why you don't see an extension of this farther to the south. But I do want to review with you what the precip looked like from the last couple of days. Here near Nebraska and Iowa, we picked up in some places well over an inch of rainfall. Same thing for this part of the Mid-South and Ohio Valley down to Mississippi and Alabama. That was pretty well predicted, I think, by the models. We've noticed they kind of had this area right in through here, which was so wet in the previous weeks, looking drier. But you can already see what's coming to the northwest, some more snow here for the high elevations of the Rocky Mountains. But some of this moisture did get into parts of the Columbia Basin over the last couple of days as well. Okay, all of that, I want to just keep us updated on this map. This is now through the 13th day of November, and we're just looking here at precipitation. Now tonight I'm heading out to Pasco, Kennewick, the Tri-Cities area here along the Columbia River. And the question I'm going to have when I get out there is just is really going to be about the potential position of the Pacific High. So I need you to keep that in the back of your mind as I go into this long range in a few moments. But lately, its position has allowed for, systems to come through and roll. And that's why this whole area has been quite wet. What has not happened is we've not been able to penetrate into the Northeast. There's been protective ridging over the East Coast of the United States. And as a result, we just maintain this this is getting on probably in some places 75 days of extremely dry conditions in the northeastern United States. Now, where you see all these ones, it's been very wet, right? We've been talking about that. I'm going to show you the latest soil moisture data. This goes down to 40 centimeters, so about 16 inches. Now, remember, this is a profile, so it's not just at 16 inches, it's the profile. And I want to remind folks that even though we've had recent moisture here getting us onto the blue side of this color spectrum, representing better than 50 to 70%, remember that deeper down, we've not recovered the fall drought situation here, nor have we done that in the Northeast, nor even parts of Texas and even this region of Oklahoma, which got hammered with rainfall. It's got to soak in, and farther down in the profile, we're missing a lot of that. The top of it is wet, deeper down is very dry, and just take a look at the Great Lakes region. Very, very dry here in this area. So what are we waiting on? Well, the next system is currently right there. And this is this system I've been telling you about that's going to have that kicker wave out ahead of it. And what's going to happen is this little piece, that fast bit of the jet stream, is going to dive in, come down, and it's going to have a system out ahead of it that it's going to just punt in this direction. And then it's going to occlude and wrap itself up and just slowly move to the northeast. Not this guy, the one behind it. And so all of the energy in this system, the momentum in it, is beginning in this spot right here. Okay? So where is that? It's this thing right here. That's all it looks like in the trough ridge pattern. Let me give this a quick refresh. That guy right there. Now you're going to watch. I know there's stuff here to watch. Watch this. As it goes through, there it is, coming over the ridge. Here's the pre-system. It's right there now. I mean, doesn't look like much, but that's it. There it is. There's the pre-system, the ones out ahead of it, going through this part of Mexico, Arizona, New Mexico. And there it is. So you just need to literally think of this as a foot kicking a soccer ball. I mean, I love soccer. I coach my son's, or assistant coach for my son's team, which means I just shag balls for those guys, but whatever. It's going to kick this, and that wave, that lead wave, is going to jump out, and we do need to be aware of the severe weather threat early next week from that. In fact, I'm curious. Let me just open a new one here, SPC. I wonder if they have convective outlooks. Okay, they have already started to talk about it. Good. So this is day 4, which would be the 17th, Sunday into Monday. And that is day 5, which would be Monday into Tuesday. And they don't have anything for day 6. So they're saying when that wave comes out, let me go back to it. Here, we're going to watch this southern one for the risk of severe storms, and then that's the one behind it that has the chance for the snow midweek next week. This is going to be the big one. Now, just like we saw all week long, we start to block things up in the west. This ridge begins to fold over the top of this trough. We have high over low here. So the whole pattern gets really amplified. That's maybe a little too exaggerated, but whatever. And as a result, it doesn't want to move too quickly. So even as I work from the middle of the week to the end, okay, one system moved east, but we really didn't just drive the pattern quickly forward. I don't want to use the word blocked because it immediately into early the following week. This is the week of Thanksgiving, keeps moving around. And to be honest, I see this potential risk of a lot of cold air coming into that week, into this section of the country, because of the flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere around, well, this would be Thanksgiving. And we just need to think about what that might mean out that far. So that's the analysis. If we're going to now just pick the pieces off of that, of what this flow means. So first thing, let's look at the high-res NAM this morning. Let's cue it up right about, I'm recording a little after 7. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I was up late last night working with a group of Australians on some content, so I just didn't get to bed till extremely late. But take a look. There's the moisture this morning. See how it's struggling to get into Pennsylvania and New York? Look at that. Just there's going to be a hard edge on that precip by tonight. And then this low curls up off the Virginia and North Carolina coastline. You'll have to call Dr. Cole and let him know he's got some moisture coming into this area. He's a good friend of mine, and we do a lot of events together. But then behind it, here is the system that's a bit starved. Now, it comes out of Nevada, eastern Oregon, Snake River Valley, maybe putting down a little bit of snow here. Gets into Montana, possibly bringing in some moisture, which is good. This is an area that's been very, very dry. But we don't have the full pull on moisture. And again, just want to stress, look at the isobars. They will tell you the direction the wind's coming from. And as a result, we're not making this pull, which would wrap the whole thing up with a lot more moisture. Now it's Saturday in this animation, and that's the guy we're watching after it. Coming into the northwest, diving, ejecting, kicker wave out ahead of it. So with all of these systems kind of getting added up here, can I show you what the wind field might look like? As we play forward, first system off North Carolina coast gets real windy here. We then by Saturday start to pick up the winds coming out of the Four Corner states into the central U.S., gusts 40 miles an hour. Now that's just the first system, the pressure gradient tightening up as the low curls up here. Then Monday, Tuesday, some of the forecast models lately have been picking up on wind gusts with this next system I'm about to show you of 60 miles an hour in the Central Plains. I mean, really, really strong winds. So this, again, is the one we're watching that today is at the Aleutian Islands. So we just want to keep an eye on the risk of these really windy conditions, and we'll talk a bit more about what could be coming into the Northeast next Friday when you look at some of these model simulations. So here we go. This is the European model. Let's get a good reload on this one too. There's the first system curling up off the Carolina coast. It gets kind of tightly wound up here, strong winds. Our next system is coming into the plains. This is already on Saturday where those stronger winds are going to be. Can you see it? They're probably extended to the northern plains as well. And then we go into Saturday. This is a rainmaker with some snow on the backside for Montana, North Dakota. Again, very windy. But what it's got to do is it's got to get farther to the east to shove this ridge to the south to open up the Gulf for that guy. So on Sunday, comes into the northwest. Kicker wave. Right there. See it? Deeper trough here, kicker low out ahead of it. There's the risk of the severe weather on Monday night. That low comes out and rolls straight up while the deeper one comes in on the backside. And what we're going to watch is, now remember, this is not color-coded for precipitation type. We're just getting total precip. That low is going to be quite deep, very strong winds around it, and we're going to have to start talking about the risk if there is heavy snow on the backside of this for a blizzard. The pressure gradient is just too tight. I think we'll have the wind criteria out of this. The front passes through the lower Mississippi River Valley. That low curls up, and then the broader wave finally comes out by next Thursday, and here it is again. And there's two chances of just a substantial system that could come through the midsection of the country, adding quite a bit of precip. So speaking of precip, this is what I got from the model you just watched. Now this is total precip. This, of course, doesn't include the snow. We'll look at that next. But we add this whole thing up. Here comes the one on Sunday into Monday. There it is. Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the following wave behind it. We notice a lot of moisture in this area. Okay, drier spots. Here, maybe Wisconsin. Here, and look at that. Good chance for moisture getting farther to the south in California. The Northeast, we're going to wait. I'm going to show you what I've got in a few moments, but not overly wet just yet. On the snow side of it, this is just through the next 48 hours from the European model. As we play forward into Saturday, now into Sunday, we're just adding this up, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. That's where the European model is putting down snow. And I'm just going to tell you again, you'll go look at the 12Z run today, it'll look entirely different because the placement of that low is not yet set, given that today it's over the Aleutian Islands. But let's compare it to the GFS. This is Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, Thursday. Look at what it does. Entirely different simulation on where this heavy snow is possibly going to be. So to compare, this is the European, that's the GFS. Look at it as I go back and forth. Do not for a moment think that any snow forecast we have for mid to late week next week is going to be right. This is just not going to be. I think what we have to understand here is that there's going to be some snow, but we don't know where. Please don't. My goodness. Is there potential? Yeah. But is it for real going to happen? Don't. Please just don't look at those and make assumptions. Okay, can we use the ensembles? Sure. This is the 10-day probability of 3 inches. I just want to let you know that if you live in this section of the country, or in the southern Canadian prairie here in Manitoba, maybe parts of Saskatchewan over toward Ontario, you've got chances of snow. And there are chances of snow into the northeast as well. But that is it's not well understood at this point what that could look like. Big amounts, let's go up to 6 inches. 12. Now we're just talking mountain snow, big snows. But the ensembles are trying to put that down, somewhere in this vicinity. I will show you this. Let's just go quickly to, let's see here, CPC. Their snow hazard outlook for the 21st to the 27th. Now remember, this is only week 2. They've got it here in the upper Midwest getting into the Northeast. And they've got some lake stuff going on as well. So we need to be aware of how fluid these forecasts are. They're not set in stone. Yesterday, remember the map they made? It was here that they were focused on the big snows. But again, that's now at the tail end of week 1. This is now at week 2 only. So what's going on in week 2? By day 10, there's a trough, and a trough. So watch this flow. That is a cold signal in this area. And this might bring some moisture into the northeast. The week 2 models, here they are. And I like this. That's where that snow could be starting week 2. This is next weekend, not the one we're about to have, but next weekend. But we're drier for a bit across a lot of the rest of the country after this. And again, the reason, northwest flow, drier. It's also going to be quite cold. Let's take a look at the frost forecast for the next 7 days. Okay. Let's now go into these high temperatures. Here's today's highs getting into tomorrow on Friday. Saturday, big warm up out ahead of this on Sunday. This is when it's all starting. That kicker wave will be coming out, the deeper trough coming in the backside. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And this is where the really cold air begins to penetrate into the southern plains. Now, if we just have a look at all of the European ensemble and the GFS ensemble, take note that by day 5 through 10, both models are seeing that cold signal. The GFS is quicker with bringing in this much colder ribbon of air on that northwest flow, but it's there in the European too. So we're going to go, honestly, into the southeast is a major flip. Remember how warm, I showed you this earlier, how warm it was in the southeast so far? Big time cool down coming. This is probably going to be first frost pretty far to the south as well. Okay, so from here, I did notice this. Remember how I've been kind of complaining about the lack of predictability in the European weeklies? That's be their subseasonal model. There's something about it that I do like right now, and that is between now and Christmas, they're trying to bring more high pressure into Alaska. And why this seems to make more sense to me is because I've been making a case that I don't understand why they had the West Coast as dry as they did. And this newest shift has now brought more moisture into this area. And that makes a lot of sense. And by the way, if that's going to happen, I think we're going to have a more active corridor in through here as well. I know that's a weird shaped polygon, but I try to hit the mountains. What I'm concerned about is what happens up the East Coast. They've had so much dry air in place because of high pressure. Can they break this down? So I'm just going to ask you to do something with me. We're going to monitor this together during this time period of relatively low predictability. And I explained it to you yesterday. I said, hey, it's the MJO. It's the fact that this La Niña's weak. We're waiting on the ocean temperatures to really evolve into a strong signal in the Gulf of Alaska. But when I make the case that this La Niña's weak, earlier this week, I said, let's compare it to the last one, like 2020. And this is just not a large enough ribbon of cold water made there by strong trade winds, which is what La Niñas really are. And so it's just not. So I want to show you something. We look a lot at what the United States says. NOAA, these are my friends and colleagues. These are brilliant scientists, but they are outliers right now. So when you compare the Australians to the Canadians, to the Europeans, the Japanese, the French, to the US against the UK Met Office, notice that our prediction, NOAA's prediction, for the strength of this La Nina is in some cases more than double other modeling centers. And in January, it's expected to reach a peak and begin to fade quickly into February, March, and April. And we're going to have to talk about what that transition could mean for the next growing season. We'll be doing that all winter long. But this is really a aggressive forecast for La Nina. And I don't know. I don't think it's quite there. These are not strong enough ocean temperature anomalies to be telling me that this is a -1.5 or -2 degrees C La Nina. Now, they're not quite to -2. Yeah, they're about -1.4. But, okay, I just want you to know that. So their forecast for winter, December, January, February, is very La Nina-like. Now, they're going to update this, I think, this weekend or maybe early next week. But what they have, again, is weak subtropical flow coming through like this. And they have a highly variable jet that comes in and ejects. Now, could we get that? Yeah, we got a big Pacific high right there. Remember, I told you we talk about it. If that Pacific high lives off the coast, maybe promoted there by the PDO signal we talked about earlier this week, sure, we could end up getting here. And would that allow for cold air to penetrate into the northern plains and out of the Canadian prairie, getting all the way down to the south and southeast at times? Sure. But I still think that their forecast is too La Nina-y. And I think there's going to be very, very volatile sub-seasonal changes this year. Now, last year we didn't have that. Remember, it was just mild. 1 week in January, it got cold. Other than that, very mild throughout the rest of winter. So we didn't have those rapid sub-seasonal changes. This year, I think we're going to have that. So don't think we're set at all on winter. We just aren't. So I want to finish with a bit on South America. Back in September through halfway into October, precipitable water amounts, blue being dry, okay, low amounts. This is what we were trying to overcome. We had since that point, October 15th up until a couple of days ago, completely ripped out all of that dry air and replaced it with tropical flow that's come in and now put the precipitable water amounts way above average. That's why it started to rain so much. What happened was, back again in September into early October, the pull of the flow, if I got to draw off the map here, was like that. So this is a subtropical high pressure region. It's just not humid. But what happened was this. Do you notice that? It was subtle. Let me just show it to you again. This was September to midway October through this point in November. Before now. The pull came from the tropical region down like this. And what that did was that increased the precipitable water and it started to rain. And we've had for the last month wetter than average conditions here, drier than average conditions farther to the south. But this was the area that was wet back in September. Now I wonder if we look at this and see these precipitation percentage of average so low, if we're really beginning to get concerned about drought. If any of you are watching this and you're in southern Brazil, I don't know, Paraná, Santa Catarina, or Rio Grande do Sul, tell me, put a comment in there to let me know if this has been problematic, because the forecast, there we go, still shows drier pockets in here, although better rain still predicted for Rio Grande do Sul. The reality is, though, that this region is still wet and not a whole lot of evidence that it's going to dry anytime soon. So this is a great start to the crop in the center west growing area. Plenty of rainfall. So I'll keep monitoring it for changes. We'll talk more about Argentina if drought conditions continue to build there. But we'll watch that southern Brazil region to see if it starts to pick back up on rainfall in a meaningful way soon. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning from Washington State. Have a good one. Thanks.